Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having an awesome start to your day and a great week out there so far. Here to give you some updated information on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Wednesday. It's going to be quite active. We have three major things ongoing today. First, the beginning stages of a significant winter storm that's going to unfold across the Front Range, just the Rockies, really the central and southern Rockies more so. And last, between today all the way through like Saturday or Sunday for certain areas of the Rockies. Then we'll break down the severe weather threat when we come to that portion of the video. We'll get very detailed on that, talk about who stands the best chance to see maybe significant severe weather today, large hail, even a tornado threat. And then we'll talk about what's driving such a extreme, is the wording they say, fire danger in the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. And we'll talk about, like I said, what's kind of driving that, what's making today so much worse than other days. So we'll break it down. I know you guys just dealt with a wildfire, a several day event across areas of the panhandle of Texas back in February. There's going to be a big time risk for it again today, unfortunately. So we'll talk about all that, get very detailed just like we always do. If you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And I haven't done this in a long time. You know, I thought about it. I was like, I don't even remember the last time I mentioned it. But if you ever consider joining the channel, it's a great way to support what I do. I have, I think, between 30 or 40 members. I think it's around 35 to 40 members that support my channel unconditionally. And it's, like I said, just a way to support what I do monthly. So I just want to say thank you to the members of the channel, and thank you for even considering. And of course, thank you for all the viewers who just view regardless if you're joined or not. At the end of the day, it's not a huge deal. But of course, I certainly appreciate the people that support my channel seriously, unconditionally. I don't have any perks to offer, anything to offer you folks. But I promise you that is in the works in the future. My channel's always been a slow progression. No huge dramatic changes. Just got to take care of some things, really family-wise. And, you know, there's some changes coming up in our future that we need to figure out. And, you know, honestly, I'm asking for prayers for that. Nothing serious. It's just, you know, are we going to stay in our current house? Are we going to move? What kind of changes are we going to make? So there's a lot of different things coming up that we're very, very excited about. Just got to make the right decisions. So anyways, enough of all that. If you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Let's get rocking and rolling. So not a whole lot going on out there across the lower 48 this morning. We do have the moisture on the increase across areas of the high plains, central high plains region, northeast Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, some moisture in Wyoming. Also, a little bit of moisture showing up in the Dakotas. Nothing substantial. It's showing some rain down here in Louisiana. Not sure if it's actually hitting the ground. And just some scattered snows across the higher elevations of the western U.S. Not a big deal at all as far as what's going on right now. Now, our severe weather risk today, there is a slight risk. This, as of right now, around 7 a.m. Eastern Time, has not been upgraded to an enhanced risk. That could change. So, you know, if you watch this around 10, 11 a.m., your time, and you're saying, Mitch, it's not a slight risk anymore. You know, more than likely, I am aware. I like to always post the update if it upgrades in the video I made that morning, just to kind of give you guys an idea that it did upgrade. But as of now, just a slight risk. This does include Kansas City, and everywhere surrounding Kansas City pretty much goes back to Columbia, Missouri. You know, includes Lawrence, Kansas, Topeka, Kansas, Manhattan, St. Joseph, includes all these areas. And there's a marginal risk that extends all the way to Oklahoma City, Tulsa, almost all the way to Dallas, along this what we call a dry line that's going to set up. There's a high chance nothing initiates along this dry line, but we certainly need to at least acknowledge the fact that if storms do form, they could become severe. Tornado threat, there's a 5% risk of a tornado right over Kansas City in this brown area. Means there's a 5% chance of a tornado within 25 miles in a given location. 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. And the hail threat is the biggest threat today. There's going to be a lot of cold air near, not at the surface, but more so aloft. Typically, when you have storms that are firing near an air mass, there's a lot of cold air aloft, and at the surface, it's close by. Aloft, the cold air is there also, creating what we call favorable lapse rates for hail in this case. Now, kinematics isn't fully working here to create a higher tornado threat. But I'm telling you guys, and I'll talk about this in detail here in a second, we could have a few tornadoes a day in this setup. But right now, talking about hail, 15% risk in the yellow area of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. But in this black outlined area, that means there's a 10% risk of significant hail, which is for 2-inch hail or larger in this setup. There's a 10% chance of that. And I definitely think we're going to have a large hail potential for today with this kind of setup that's going to be in place. So excessive rainfall outlook, not a big deal at all, just a marginal risk. So at least a 5% risk of flash flooding occurring. Don't think this is going to be a big deal at all. But, this is something I don't show a lot. This is called the fire weather outlook. This is day 1, which is between right now and the next 24 hours. This is pretty rare, guys. We have an extreme. The category outlook legend down here goes from elevated, which, we see quite often, critical, not as often, and extreme. We have an extreme, category risk of basically a wildfire breaking out. I mean, it's a legit fire danger today. This includes, all the way to sections of western Oklahoma. Woodward, Amarillo is right in the heart of this. This is basically right in the area that got impacted by that wildfire back in February. So this is serious. And you guys know, I don't live anywhere that gets a lot of wildfires. I mean, we get random wildfires in South Carolina. We get things, everybody can get them. But, I know it's a different world out in the central and western U.S., but as you guys know, this can happen fast. So please be on guard, be alert for this. And, I'm sure people who are tuning in aren't going to do anything stupid, but please don't do anything stupid. And I know that's, kind of rude terms, but, don't throw a cigarette butt out the truck or just do anything that's going to cause a spark. But I think this all goes without saying, but, some people are probably going to do it anyways. But anyways, moving past that, we'll talk about what's driving that here in a second. But of course, you do have the red flag warnings in that hot pink color because of this. This does include areas in New Mexico and a few counties in Kansas and several counties in western Oklahoma. So please take this serious today. A lot of winds out west and Nevada, especially California. We'll speak a little bit on that, but you can see all the winter weather alerts across the central and southern Rockies. These do extend all the way up into southern Montana. But this is going to be the hardest hit area with this heavy snow in the Front Range. Colorado, winter storm warnings up for the Denver metro area, pretty much all the way down the southern areas of the Front Range. But, the eastern and most of the central U.S. is quiet. That'll change for the central U.S. a little bit later today. We'll kind of breeze on through this. The southeast, nothing really is going to happen today. We'll get through this morning. Maybe a little bit of shower activity now down here near the bayou, southern Louisiana. We get into this evening. We won't talk about this yet. We'll speak on that once we get to that frame. But we get into the overnight hours, getting into tomorrow morning. It's quiet, guys. As we are getting into tomorrow, some things will begin to change for like Louisiana, Northeast Texas, and Arkansas. But today, it's a nice, warm day. I mean, the pollen is probably going to start to go crazy today and probably tomorrow for areas of the southeast. You're really going to start to see it as it's very dry out there. Yeah. It's going to get very warm. Northeast, quiet weather also. Maybe some shower activity. Just shower, just not a lot of cold air in place. Adirondacks, Green and White Mountains, some showers are possible. Maybe if you're higher up, maybe some snow. But not a big deal. We could get maybe a thunderstorm. It's possible, you kind of go back to this, and there's no risk of thunderstorms up here today, but you could get like a shower that could produce some small hail up here. It's very possible. Don't be surprised if you're in southern Maine, areas of Vermont, New Hampshire, and see that. But as we get into tonight, moisture will be on the increase with a little piece of energy in the atmosphere. They'll, promote enough lift to get some of these showers and snow showers going in areas of Maine. Snow could potentially fall into the wee hours of the morning, tomorrow morning and Thursday. Into Thursday morning. I don't think a lot's going to add up from this, but you certainly can get a few inches of snow depending on where you are. I don't have a snowfall map up for you folks. I do apologize. But definitely some snow is expected that you guys could get woke up to tomorrow morning. It's nice to hear that I got people tuning in from like northern Maine. I appreciate y'all folks very much. Definitely always let me know when you're where you are tuning in from. It means a lot to me. The South Central U.S. today, quiet right now. Not a whole lot going on at all. There's that low. It's basically a short wave with an associated surface low that's going to cause all the weather today, all the issues. And then there's another one that forms behind this one that's just going to amplify the issues, and that's going to be the one that really gets gets the moisture going across the front range. And basically what's happening here between this low and another one that's going to form over here, this is actually working in tandem to pull up a moist feed from the south, even kind of a connection from the Gulf of Mexico. This is what we call an upslope flow event for like the front range in the Rockies, which seems to happen at least once a year. But we keep this going, and we'll take that broad look at it just like we always do. And you see the moisture on the increase across the Rockies, and then you see the explosion of storms right up in here. And hold up, we're going to zoom into this for you folks that are saying, man, that's too far out. But we're going to zoom into this. But you can see the storms that just like basically spawn out of nowhere up here in Kansas and northern Missouri, areas of Illinois, and up into Iowa. And then you can see the snow beginning to really increase and starting to fall pretty heavily, not just across the higher elevations of western Colorado, but also like the front range, starting to snow in the foothills, starting to snow in Denver, and it's starting to ooze into kind of eastern sections of Colorado as we're getting into tomorrow morning. But we'll have a separate kind of close-in segment of this, and we're going to talk about, and I have that time stamped out for you folks who are wondering that live in Colorado, how much snow you're going to get. I have a separate segment for that. But let's zoom into this fire risk. So this is where you have that extreme category as far as the fire risk outlook right in here. This is what you call winds at 500 millibars, about 18,000 feet up in the air. And this kind of gives us a gauge in the mid-levels of where the wind is flowing. And a lot of times at the surface, the wind's kind of coming from that same direction. Not always, but sometimes, a lot of times. And in this case, you see this big area right over this region of this, in general, on average, about 50 knot mid-level flow riding over this region. Well, this is helping to basically bring desert dry air, really dry air over this area right into here. So, it's already very dry in this area. You're going to get a push of even more dry air over this area by the time we get later into this morning, into this afternoon. This is going to move over this region and just bring conditions that are, like I said, very favorable for just a small spark to break into a big fire. Now, you look at that too, and this continues. You continue to get this flow. It actually enhances overnight into tomorrow morning. That's why, it's not just for today. It's going to probably linger into tomorrow also. Another thing that you look at, which I don't show often, if I can find it, which tells you why I don't show it often, the relative humidity. This basically tells you how humid it is. And you start to get into this afternoon, and let's start off this morning. Notice, it's very dry in this area. Okay, you got humidity at about 20 to 30% in this region of the Panhandle. But look how you get even a more stout punch of dry air right here into the Panhandle of Texas. If I do say the Panhandle of Florida at any time, you loyal viewers know that sometimes I say that, and I know where Florida and Texas is. Just get tongue-tied there a little bit. But, as you start to get into this afternoon, it drops into the teens. 16, 15% humidity, relative humidity in this region. Very dry conditions. And, like I said, this is just going to bring the recipe for a significant fire danger in this region. So that's what's going on. And you're asking, why is this flow coming maybe out the southwest? It's because of that surface low. You see how the wind barbs are turning up here? This is helping to pull in the flow out the southwest. So that's kind of what's going on. There's a lot of other features that's driving that too. And then you mix the winds at the surface. Not super strong, not the worst we've ever seen, but you got the potential for 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts, maybe an isolated 50 mile per hour wind gust in the Panhandle of Texas, western Oklahoma. So definitely a big deal today in this region. So please take this serious, and I know you folks are. Kansas today, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the severe weather risk. So we get into about, this is around midday for you folks in Kansas. Not a whole lot going on. And for most of most of Kansas, maybe a whole lot doesn't go on. But bang, here they go. And this could happen right around when the sun's setting. This is around 7 p.m. Central Time. Around 8 p.m., you start to see some storm development here. And 9 p.m., they really just explode. The lift is there, and they get going. And storms really get going around the, not sure if y'all call it Highway 36. If y'all call it Route 36. Not sure of the terms y'all use out here. Everybody's different. But right around that corridor right in here, these storms really do fire up and start to impact these areas. Places like, what is it? Man, I'm all over the place. Looking at Google Maps, just trying to mention a couple towns and names. I always try to help out this way. But I think Lawrence is right into here. You might not get a drop of rain. Manhattan, these storms might fire up like an hour or so just north of you guys. You're thinking, well, we didn't get anything today. It's a possibility. Somewhere in this region might not get a drop of rain. These storms fire up just north. Kansas City right into here. Kansas City might not get a drop of rain, but you might get a storm that could produce very large hail. This is around 10 p.m. Sun's done set. These storms are very intense in northern, especially northeast Kansas. And then they try to sneak into the southeastern sections of Nebraska, which I think they will, producing large hail, damaging winds, and a tornado risk. And then, we kind of have this last lone storm potentially that could be there. Of course, these short-range model guys. This isn't exact science. This is getting after midnight tonight. Another storm kind of rides the Nebraska-Kansas state line. We'll see if that's actually the way it occurs. But then we head on to our folks here. Well, let's look at the updraft Felicity swath. And these kind of setups, when you're right up against that surface low, which will be right up into here, right into here, it'll be moving, okay? It's always going to overdo the updraft Felicity swath, but it is very intense. I mean, these highlighted colors right in here, this is between now and Thursday morning. This indicates where we could have rotation with some of these storms. And when you see these reds and even pinks, if you look closely, that's a strong indication that there will at least be some solid rotation with these storms. It's just how tight will this rotation be? Will it connect? Kansas City right into here. I think this little section right here of Kansas is really going to be under the gun potentially for a tornado risk. Now, that's kind of weird. Okay, yeah. I see what I got doing. I was like, how did I have this set up? North Central U.S. This is where we include my folks down here in Missouri, Illinois, and Iowa. Okay, but let's take that broad look at it first. Okay. Not a whole lot going on really for anybody else. The Great Lakes region is pretty quiet. We do have some moisture dancing around out here in central and western Nebraska. But there are those storms that really fire up basically out of nowhere in northern Missouri, central and south central Illinois, and then they kind of drift northward over time, sort of evolve into maybe a line of storms, multiple lines of storms, and kind of turn into just a big area of storms and really just moderate to heavy rain as it begins to make its way into like Chicago, Milwaukee, even southern lower Michigan, northern Indiana, all the way into Ohio as we are starting to get into tomorrow morning. The severe weather risk for areas of like Indiana overnight or anything like that, I think is really, really low. We do have to watch tomorrow, though. Tomorrow could be a different story. But that's kind of a broad look at this, guys. A little bit of snow shower activity might greet you guys tomorrow morning in northern North Dakota. Closer look at the severe weather threat from Missouri, Illinois, surrounding states. Look at those storms. Bang, pop up right there. I mean, right around the St. Louis region. You got to watch all these storms. They could produce very large hail. And I know this is kind of outside that main area, which is right here from the Storm Prediction Center. But this could expand a little bit. And then as we start to get into about 10 p.m., these storms are quite intense right into here, guys. I mean, north of Columbia, right up into here. Let's see if I can, say it. St. Joseph. I know there isn't a lot of huge towns and cities right in here. I know Kirksville right in here. Some storms could move into your area well after the sun sets tonight. But these storms, like I said, all hazards could be produced with this. Large hail especially, 5% risk of a tornado could increase. And then as this starts to move into Iowa, might begin to lose some steam. But I mean, this is around 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Storms are still ongoing, kind of all the way up here into the southeastern portions of Iowa. Storming pretty good into this region right into here. What is that? Quincy. I knew I was thinking of a name in my head. Peoria storming. Could get some storms into Chicago in the wee hours of the morning. And we could have a nasty area of storms kind of making its way out of northern Missouri into central, or both at the same time, central Illinois. And I think these could evolve into a line of storms maybe tomorrow morning as they kind of make their way through Indiana. But more so just a line of storms. Updraft Felicity swath with this setup right here. And as you can tell, definitely some solid rotation showing up with these storms. It's definitely something we need to watch out for in this setup. And this takes us all the way through Thursday afternoon. Solid signs of rotation right into here. But that doesn't mean this is going to produce a tornado. It just shows where there will be some rotation with these storms. And I do think we'll have some tornado warnings today. And I do think we'll have some confirmed tornadoes, honestly. So let's go out west. That broad look at things. Some snow will dance around across the northern Rockies, central Rockies. We'll have some solid snow flying around across areas of Wyoming. Some snow in the higher elevations of Utah, even Nevada. Snow might be on the increase a little bit more in Idaho. But there's that solid spin you see as this cutoff low, like I said, gets fully cut off and just kind of spins around across the Rockies, creating a lot of moisture. That mixing with the fact that you're getting an enhancement from that pool of moisture from the south sets the recipe for a significant winter storm that begins to unfold, especially tonight across the Front Range, even southern Wyoming. And this still continues to spin around to tomorrow afternoon, and it's still snowing. We take it all the way until late Thursday night. Snow is still falling and begins to fall heavier and kind of shift into like the higher elevations of New Mexico and Arizona. Even a little bit of snow is possible in the southern Sierra Nevada. But look at the snow as we're getting into the middle of the night. Tomorrow night, falling even kind of east of the Rockies, the Front Range. So, you know, we'll take a closer look at that here in a second. But the winds in California will be pretty windy today, especially Southern California, especially in those higher terrains. If you live in the hills and in the mountainous regions of Southern California, the Sierra Nevada, winds could gust from anywhere from 30 to as much as 60 to 70 miles per hour. These are just wind gusts, not, maintained winds or consistent winds. Very windy day across Las Vegas today, too. Very windy across southern Nevada, so be aware of that as you basically have that huge system that's, creating all those strong winds. A little bit closer look at the Rockies with this system. So this is the European model. This extends all the way throughout the life of the storm. We're getting it this afternoon. Snow begins to get on the increase across Wyoming, across western Colorado, Utah. You start to see some moisture down here in Arizona, New Mexico too. And we keep this going. And this is when the snowstorm begins to rage in like the Denver metro area. Denver's right into here. Any rain begins to switch to snow, starts to snow very, very heavy. Man, I'm brain farting the name of it. But anyways, starts to snow pretty heavily into the southern half of Wyoming, and this continues all the way into Thursday morning. You got an all-out snowstorm, not just in the Rockies of Colorado and the Front Range, the foothills, but also east of these areas too. It's snowing pretty good. Heaviest snow begins to shift southward into the southern Rockies, starts to really pick up in like southern Colorado, and a lot of this energy then begins to shift. Like I said, in the southern Colorado, this is getting into Friday morning, starting to snow in southern Utah, northern New Mexico, northern Arizona, those higher elevated regions. Of course, not like Phoenix and stuff like that, but near Flagstaff, snow begins to fall. And you keep going, guys. I mean, this kind of just gets trapped in one area down here. It's a cutoff low, so it doesn't move much unless something picks it up, and nothing ever does. And then we get into Saturday morning. Some of this snow could drift back into the southern sections of Colorado. But finally, I would say after we get to about Sunday, things begin to chill out a little bit down here. So the snowfall expected in the Rockies here, this is kind of a broad look for the central and southern Rockies. As you can tell, it's a bullseye. It's a bullseye right over Colorado. So let's just go on and zoom in and take a look at the predicted snowfall total. This is up here in Wyoming. Lander, 6 to 12 inches of snow. Riverton looks like 1 to 3. Casper, anywhere from 1 to 5. Of course, these little isolated areas that are higher up in elevation, 1,000 feet, make a huge difference. But this is this area of Wyoming. We'll take a look at a little bit further south. Laramie. I was nailing the name of that there for a while, but that's why I said I brain farted a couple minutes ago. Laramie. The Laramie Range is going to get hit pretty good. 5 to 12 inches of snow. 8 to 15 in Arlington. A lot of snow in this area. But of course, it's elevated driven. If you're in those lower elevations, like I said, like Harrison, Scottsbluff, Lusk, 0 to 6 inches. You could get nothing. You could get 6 inches of snow. Pretty wild. Now, this is an area that's going to get hit really hard. Denver, 12 to 18 inches of snow. 18 to 24 inches of snow in Castle Rock. Colorado Springs, these guys are going to get hit pretty hard in this area. Even a little bit of snow is going to creep in just east of the Rockies too. Akron, 1 to 2 inches of snow. They've actually dropped some of these snowfall totals out here. But you guys are going to get hit pretty good in these areas too. Castle Rock, 18 to 24. Colorado Springs, 6 to 8 inches of snow. Hopefully it shows where you are on the screen. I know, but Denver's going to get, a good foot and a foot and a half of snow as of right now. A little bit further south, Pueblo, 2 to 6. So, Yeah, just find where you are on here. You know, Woodland Park, this was upgraded a couple hours ago. 19 to 35 inches of snow. Heavy hitter, especially for the foothills of Colorado. And then we head on down here to Albuquerque. No snow expected there, but you get into the higher elevation, several inches of snow is likely. And I think this is only between just now and 6 a.m. Saturday. This storm is still ongoing for this area, so this isn't the entirety of the storm. Temperatures today, nice and warm. Going to have to try to speed up this video, running out of time. Warm all the way up into the northeast. You're going to get into the 60s all the way into the southern tier of New York State. 70s across the southeast, the Ohio Valley. 70s and 80s, the south central U.S. Very warm up in the Great Lakes region. You know, out west, you're cooling back down a little bit with this pocket of cooler air with this cutoff low. But, it'll be pretty nice weather across the southwest, really. It'll warm up pretty good, but just very windy. And, of course, climbing into the 70s, even maybe some 80s, where we do have that fire danger issue. Tomorrow will be a legit severe weather risk today, guys. So we have an enhanced risk in the orange, level 3 out of 5. We have a slight risk that extends all the way from the Midwest all the way down to Waco, Texas. So huge area is going to be under the gun for severe weather in this setup. And if we look at this and what's driving this, tornado risk as of now, just a 5% risk of a tornado right here in this enhanced area. So this is not driven off a tornado risk. It's driven off a large hail risk. I'm going to show you that here in a second. But guys, there's a 2% risk of a tornado in the green. It extends all the way from east central Texas all the way to Cleveland. It's kind of a weird kind of shaped area right here. Wind threat, large area that has a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. But the hail threat, guys, this is the big deal. Okay, yellow, 15% risk. Okay, that was cool. 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. And then in the red here, that is a 30% chance of hail exceeding 1 inch in diameter or larger. But you see the black outlined area? That's its own separate risk criteria. So that is a 10% risk of hail, of significant hail, and that criteria is 2 inch in diameter or larger. So hail is going to be the biggest threat tomorrow, but we could get a bump up to a 10% risk of a tornado. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised one bit if we do. And really what's driving this, guys, as you look at the dew points, a lot of moist air surges into this setup. Here we are, dew points into the mid to upper 60s, even some low 70s down here. We got this pool of decent surface moisture all the way up here into the Midwest. And look how this moisture builds all the way into the Ohio Valley. So you got plenty of surface moisture riding up the Mississippi Valley, east and west of that, especially west. So plenty of surface moisture in this setup, right? And eventually it collapses as the more stable air mass moves in. In response to that higher surface moisture, look at these CAPE levels that build into this region. Woof. You got CAPE levels that are approaching 3,000 joules per kilogram. A lot of CAPE that builds all the way up into here into kind of a boundary that'll set up where this warm front will be. And then we have this nose of CAPE that does build all the way into Indiana, eventually into Ohio, Kentucky, western Tennessee. This will have values approaching over 1,000 to 1,500 joules per kilogram later tomorrow afternoon and evening. And we still have a lot of energy to be ate up by storms down here in Arkansas. So a lot of fuel in the environment. And then you look at the lift in the atmosphere, there'll be plenty of it, especially right in here where these storms will really get going right here with this mid-level flow that's supportive for severe weather. Last thing we'll look at very quickly is how the radar will look tomorrow. Guys, those are some nasty looking storms in eastern Oklahoma and western sections of Arkansas. This has large hail written all over it. Typically, when you look at Weather Bell and you see those splotches of pink and purple, that indicates very large hail with these storms. That's kind of how this model run indicates that. But there's some nasty storms down here near the Dallas-Fort Worth area, northeast Texas. And then they really just explode up here in the southern half of Missouri, St. Louis right into here. But I'm telling you guys, there's going to be some gigantic hail with this type of setup. A lot of cold air aloft really close by to this setup. And there's going to be a tornado threat with this too. But these storms are going to be pretty robust. And this gets into the overnight hours. These storms start to knock on the door of Memphis late evening tomorrow night into the overnight hours. And these storms begin to, move into areas of western Kentucky, western Tennessee, northern Mississippi. And not to ignore my folks up here a little bit further, but check out these storms rumbling through the southern half of Missouri, nasty storms into the southern half of Illinois as we're starting to get into tomorrow evening, and these storms really start to explode and get going. But I do think they'll lose some steam as they start to make their way into Indiana, Ohio. I know I'm leaving Ohio a little bit blank here, but we'll talk more on this tonight. We'll have another video. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. A lot of severe weather, a lot of action coming up. God bless all y'all, and have a great day.